We arrived at the remote island resort with high hopes and eager smiles. The brochures had painted a picture of paradise, lush greenery, pristine beaches, and luxurious villas. We were 4 couples, lifelong friends, looking for an escape from the mundane. The island was exclusive, accessible only by a private boat, which added to its allure. We were blissfully unaware of the darkness that lurked beneath its serene facade. Our hosts, a middle-aged couple named Daniel and Marissa, greeted us warmly. They were the only inhabitants of the island, caretakers of the resort. Daniel's eyes sparkled with a mischievous glint, while Marissa's smile never quite reached her eyes. At first, we dismissed these quirks, attributing them to the island's isolation, but in hindsight, they were the first whispers of the terror that awaited us. Our first evening was enchanting. We dined under a canopy of stars, the ocean's gentle murmur harmonizing with our laughter. It was a perfect start. As the night deepened, we retreated to our respective villas, promising to meet for an early swim. The moonlight cast eerie shadows on the paths, but the alcohol in our veins dulled any sense of unease. The next morning, things started to change. Linda, one of our friends, complained of a restless night. She said she heard whispers outside her window, indistinct but persistent. Her husband, Mark, dismissed it as island wildlife. But Linda was visibly shaken, her eyes darting nervously around the breakfast table. Determined to shake off the unease, we decided to explore the island. We split into pairs, each couple taking a different path. My wife, Emily, and I wandered through dense foliage, marveling at the vibrant flora. But the deeper we ventured, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. The air grew thick, the silence deafening. It felt as though the island was watching us, waiting. We stumbled upon an old, dilapidated cabin hidden among the trees. Its windows were broken, and the door hung ajar. A foul stench emanated from within, making us gag. Against my better judgment, I stepped inside. The walls were covered in strange symbols, crudely painted in what looked like dried blood. Emily tugged at my arm, her face pale. "We need to leave," she whispered. And so we did, but the sense of foreboding followed us. That night, the whispers returned. This time, they were louder, more insistent. Linda woke us all up, her screams echoing through the resort. She claimed to have seen a figure standing at the foot of her bed, watching her. Her terror was palpable, infectious. We huddled together in the main villa, too afraid to sleep. Over the next few days, the island's malevolence became undeniable. Objects moved on their own, shadows flitted just beyond our vision, and the whispers grew louder, more coherent. They spoke of sacrifice, of ancient rituals performed to appease a dark entity that dwelled within the island. We were trapped, cut off from the world, and at the mercy of this presence. One evening, Mark went missing. We searched the island frantically, but there was no sign of him. His disappearance shattered any remaining semblance of normalcy. We were all on edge, jumping at the slightest sound. The once idyllic resort had transformed into a waking nightmare. The following night, Emily and I woke to find Daniel and Marissa standing in our room. Their faces were devoid of emotion, eyes blank. "The island demands a sacrifice," Marissa intoned, her voice flat and lifeless. Before we could react, they lunged at us. We fought desperately, driven by primal fear. In the struggle, I managed to knock Daniel unconscious, and we fled into the jungle. The other couples were not as fortunate. We heard their screams, their desperate pleas for mercy, but we couldn't help them. Emily and I stumbled through the darkness, guided only by the faint glow of the moon. The whispers were louder than ever, promising doom and despair. We reached the beach, our only hope of escape. The boat was still there, but the engine had been sabotaged. Desperation clawed at us as we tried to fix it, knowing our time was running out. Just as we got the engine sputtering to life, we saw them. The figures, emerging from the trees, their eyes glowing with an unnatural light. We sped away, the boat cutting through the waves with a roar. As the island faded into the distance, the whispers finally ceased. We were safe, but the horror of what we had experienced clung to us like a second skin. The other couples were gone, their fates sealed by the island's dark hunger. Emily and I never spoke of the island again. We couldn't bear to. But at night, in the silence of our home, I sometimes hear whispers, faint and distant. They speak of sacrifice, of a darkness that can never be sated. And I know that the island is still out there waiting for its next victims, a paradise turned into a prison of eternal terror.